Today is a little-known feast day of the 7 Servites. And as you know, on occasion I like to read to you from the Liturgy of the Hours, the Divine Office, these readings that kind of fill in a little bit about the people that we are honoring as we offer the Mass today. And these were 7 men. They were born at Florence, and they began a life on Monte Senario, which is just on the periphery of Florence, up a mountain, large hill mountain called Monte Senario, with a particular veneration of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Later, they preached throughout Tuscany and founded the order of Servites of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Approved by the Holy See in 1304, Alexis Falconieri, one of the 7, died on this day in 1310. So this is a very ancient, very old group of men known as the Order of Servites of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the region of northern Italy, Tuscany. And here is the reading that is prescribed for the day in the office of readings. It's from an account of the origin of the Servite order. There were 7 men worthy of all our praise and veneration, whom Our Lady brought into one community to form this order of hers and of her servants. They were like 7 stars joined together to form a constellation. When I entered this order, I found only one of the 7 still alive, Brother Alexis, whom Our Lady was pleased to preserve from death down to our own time, so that we might listen to his account of the founding of the order. As I saw myself and observed at first hand, Brother Alexis led so good a life that all who met him were moved by the force of his example. Moreover, he was a living testimony to that special kind of religious perfection characteristic of that first community. But where did these men stand before they formed their own community? Let us consider this in 4 respects. First, as regards the church. Some of them had never married, having vowed themselves to perpetual celibacy. Some were married men at the time. Some had lost their wives after marriage, and now were widowers. Second, regarding their status in the city of Florence, they belonged to the merchant class and engaged in buying and selling the goods of this world. But once they found the pearl of great price, our order, they not only gave all they had to the poor, but cheerfully offered themselves to God and Our Lady in true and loyal service. Third, concerning the devotion and reverence to Our Lady. In Florence, there was an ancient guild dedicated to the Blessed Virgin. Because of its age and the number and holiness of its members, both men and women, the guild had acquired a title of preeminence and was called the Major Guild of Our Blessed Lady. These 7 men were devoted to Our Lady and belonged to this guild before they established their own community. Fourth, as for their spiritual perfection, they loved God above all things and dedicated their whole lives to him by honoring him in their every thought, word, and deed. But when, by God's inspiration and the special urging of Our Lady, they had firmly resolved to form a community together, they set in order everything that concerned their homes and families, left to their families what they needed, and gave all the rest to the poor. Then they sought the advice of virtuous men of good judgment and described their plans to them. They climbed the heights of Monte Senario and built on its summit a little house that would suit their purpose, and there they lived in common. As time passed, they began to realize that they were called not simply to sanctity themselves, but to receive others into their community, and so increase the membership of this new order Our Lady had inspired them to found. They recruited new members, some they accepted, thus established our present order. In the very beginning, Our Lady was their chief architect of this new order, which was founded in the humility of its members, built up by their mutual love and preserved by their poverty. I think such a life of men today would make so little sense, and yet there is something eternal about the life that they've chosen to lead. They left behind all the things of the world so that they could dedicate and consecrate themselves to God. And we have men and women throughout the world who do this, and they live a cloistered life. They live a monastic life. And whether you know it or not, they spend their whole lives giving themselves to God and to the church. And they believe with all their mind, heart, and soul that the offering of their lives affects you. That they, in their offering of themselves, pleases God in such a way that the rest of the church, each of us who live on the outside, benefit. I've had, of course, the privilege to visit Montesenario, the monastery outside of Florence. And of course, I've had the privilege to meet so many consecrated men and women who have dedicated themselves in a likewise fashion, just in different communities. And I assure you that they don't regard themselves as spiritually disconnected from you. That everything they do, their daily living, they're waking, they're going to rest, and everything they do in between in terms of work and prayer, it's not only for their own sanctification, but they're offering themselves as a spiritual sacrifice, joined to the cross of Christ for the benefit and the salvation of all of us. There are men and women throughout this world that are offering their whole lives in a very hidden way, seen pretty much to God alone, for love of you and me. And I think it's right that we regard them, that we pray for them, and we ask also for their continued prayers in our lives, especially these 7 Servites who we honor today, but all those consecrated men and women who have hidden themselves in cloisters for our benefit. We thank them, we pray for them, and we seek their prayers.